Hello, everybody. Thanks for giving me 60 minutes of your time, and I promise I will talk through that. I'm wondering, what do the audience see? At least I don't see it on my live screen. Oh, it takes a little while. Sorry for that. So I get from you 60 minutes, as I said, and I will promise you to show you certain things. So what will you learn today? Well, if you stay with me for the next 60 minutes, you will learn that 1 million views on YouTube might mean a lot and it might mean nothing. You will learn that influencers, the guys which the marketing department is so happily searching for, that they are actually that. You will mean that behavioral data ruled social data in many of the predictions we do. You will realize that you don't want you don't want big data, but you actually want small data. You will realize how to get there in terms of what feature reduction means. And talking about that in terms of feature reduction on what a good metrics is, you will understand why AltaVista actually ultimately failed. Now, all that is great, and I give you a little bit scorecard how you can score business data or how you can score data in order to make sense for your business. We will look at the reasons why text analytics is so difficult, and I give you a couple of hints how you can actually predict the next Oscars. And I will end everything with data without action is useless. So a lot to get started. Let's get going. If anything if all of those things do not excite you, then do me a favor, drop the line. If you like my German accent, stay on. If you like the points, stay on. So, as we saw, as the announcement said, there is a book out which I wrote together with Sumitra Dutta, who is the dean of Cornell Business School. This book is about social and data. As you can see in the picture, there are huge social communications out there, and that is exciting. Why is that? Because it is actually a big shift. Since 2004, we see a lot of social discussion upcoming, and now we actually have the ability to data mine those. And that is amazing because it will tell us what humans are doing. It will tell us, enable us to do predictions about their behavior. And those predictions, the hopes are actually high, and I give you a couple of them. For example, we talk about terrorism. Yeah? As you see, there is a map, the world map, and you see the black dot in the middle. That is the position from nobody else than Osama bin Laden. And the guy who did this study was Khalef, and what he used to predict the position of Osama bin Laden was actually public news data. So he analyzed all articles in the news data space and figured out that before actually the troops went in, most people actually knew already that he is somewhere in that range. So that sounds pretty exciting. Now, is it actionable? Most likely not, and we will get to this issue at the end because, ask, measure, learn. Learn is meaning learning from the data, acting on the data. Is that actionable? Most likely not, and is this well done in hindsight? Or other things which went through the news media is we predicting pregnancy. And you might have heard this one, Target actually uses behavioral data to understand whether their customers are pregnant or not. And it came to the news because they did it so well that they actually predicted the pregnancy of an underage girl, and the father got very upset because suddenly this daughter of his got coupons for pregnant women. So he was kind of very mad. He went public, and it turned out that actually Target knew better than he did. So what tells us this? There is a lot happening in that space, social and data. There are high hopes, but how do you get there? How do you actually go from you have data, meaning like Khalef, he had a lot of news data, or Target, he has a lot of behavioral data. How do you get from there to an actionable insight, to something what you can do? And what Sumitra Dutta and myself, we provide is a framework which we think is pretty simple and easy and will, if applied rigidly, help everybody to do that. Framework is ask the right question, measure the right data, and take actions and learn from them. Sounds pretty straightforward. Now, I can already see some of you guys scratching your heads and kind of saying, hold on. Is this really one size fits all? And obviously, one size does not fit everybody. Therefore, the way we actually developed it is that we say this framework has to be applied throughout different departments of an organization. So in the book, we actually look at marketing, at sales, at PR, at customer care, and so on and so forth. And you will realize in every of those departments, the question is a different one. Several questions might be there. The data, the measure is different. And then obviously the action you take out of the data is as well different. So I will give you, while we're going through this talk, examples for this circle, ask, measure, learn, as well as showing you this for different departments. Obviously, we won't be able in the 60 minutes to cover everything, so I will pick point certain areas which I hope excite you enough to learn more. Before we do so, I have one favor to ask you. Because obviously when you're in the data space, and I'm in the data space, and it's an amazing and relevant space, a lot of discussions is how should we organize our great minds we have in our organization in order to be most efficient to do an ask, measure, learn cycle. And there are a couple of organizational structures, and I put them up, and this is the only question I need to ask you before we dive into this whole webcast. How do you deal in your own organization with data? And what you normally see is you have the business side. You have those business guys who kind of control, who consult, who look at it. Typical, these guys are former consultants, BCG, McKinsey & Co. guys. Then you have the analyst guys. They speak and code SQL for a living. And these guys know everything about databases. They know where to get the data, and they pull out the data, and they're a little bit the BI guys. Since recently, you have this new breed of people which are so-called data science people. Now, my personal view, the skill sets of a BI person and a data science person is very similar. Now, obviously, that's not shared in the whole community or industry. People would say data science is hip, BI is old-fashioned, but essentially both work with data, both trying to do predictions or benchmarking, and we will see this a little bit later in the measure and learn part. However, let's say the analysts are normally very much focused on getting data. The data science guys are very much focused on building models. And then we have the engineering guys who kind of like once we have a model, they put it into a platform, they put it into approach, they do the website, they do the performance thing so that something really can be rolled out big. So those four functions you normally have. And please help me to understand and we have over 500 people on the phone, how are your organizations actually doing this? Three different, I should count that, 5 different ways of doing this, and you see it here. If you don't happen to have data science, don't please cry. Just take it out and assume that you have business BI engineering. Everybody does have that. And tell me, how are you structured? Everybody's separate, business separate, and the rest is separate, and you see those 1, 2, 3. And I'm actually will pull up now a poll, and the poll looks like this. So it's the same question. It's only not as nice graphical. Let's see whether it comes up. It does not yet on my screen. I'm hoping it's come up. Oh, here we go. Okay. So you have now to choose. Everybody is different in the organization, and please choose. Like if you are thinking that you only can listen, like close the newspaper in front of your screen, move your coffee away, get on the screen, and click one of those 5 buttons, what you think is most suited for your organization. Click submit, and while you do this, I will tell you what I believe is the best organizational form. Now, you would have guessed probably, because when I say I want, because I wrote a book, Ask, Measure, Learn, all in one sentence, I probably will go for the last one. I would like to have everything in one team, because if you don't get the ask right, and you will see this in today's talk, you won't be able to measure and you won't be able to act. Vice versa, if you don't get the measure right, the best question will not get served. So let me see what you guys say. Here we go. Thank you. So what we see as pretty much mixed audience. Businesses separate and everybody is in a different organizations are the biggest ones. Only 17% would do it the way I would love to see organizations being run. Now, that is good news for me because pretty much 83% of you guys should listen closely when I walk you through Ask, Measure, Learn and show you why I think this is important. So let's go to back to the agenda. Let's start with asking. The ask from Ask, Measure, Learn. That's the hardest part. And it's totally misunderstood that this is actually the hardest part. I like very often I go to clients and they kind of think, oh, you come with data and now you are able to do wonderful things. The truth is no. If we don't define the ask correctly, we won't do anything. We will just do a little bit data wrangling, data munching, like putting a model together, and at the end something comes out. But if there wasn't a question and to begin with, then it's hard to get it up and running. Now, I give you an example, and I take this from marketing. So let's look at it. And I said in the beginning, what does 1 million views mean on YouTube? It actually might mean a lot. So if you look at Justin Bieber did his 1 million views, and then he got the triple platinum hit. And that is as well due to the brand awareness he created around his name. So that sounds good. Well, another idea could be 1 million views on YouTube are actually cool for selling. So Oral Brush from Dr. Wagstaff. If you have never heard about Oral Brush, don't be sad. Me neither. Until I saw the video. You will have a chance later on to see the video if you really want. Oral Brush has made a very funny video very easily explaining you why bad breath is an issue and why it is an issue for you. And it is so convincing that after the video you kind of think like, wow, I should buy an Oral Brush. So like that's what 2.5 million people did, and they bought it. That stuff did not sell at all before Dr. Wagstaff actually did this YouTube video. So 1 million views can be quite successful. However, and that's the sad side of it, 1 million views can pretty much mean nothing, very little. Do you remember a guy called David Carroll? He made the song Unite Breaks Guitar. Pretty much he was flying. Unite didn't handle his guitar very well. It became a social media disaster for Unite. And it was a couple of million views on YouTube. Well, David did not get his guitar back. David had over 1 million views, but he was far from being as successful as Justin Bieber. And then, because he got so many views, he wrote a book about social media marketing that didn't sell well neither. So you can see, like 1 million views by itself doesn't mean anything. And why is that? Because I didn't have the question correct. I just kind of saw YouTube, I see a metrics, I think, oh, well, this is convenient, I have a metric, so I do the measure. But if I want to do ask, measure, learn, I skip the ask part, and that is haunting me in the back. Now, I give you an example how big that haunt can, like this problem can be. And I love this study from IBM. They kind of ask people, they ask the audience of Facebook, and everybody said, oh, you need to go into Facebook, and Facebook, that's important for your business. So let's ask, why? Now, you ask why to the managers of the business, that's the right side of this picture, or you ask the actual people on Facebook, that's the left side. And what you see is consumers, they want what? They want discount, they want purchase, that's the reason why they actually like the page. The managers actually, or the businesses, think something totally different. Oh, they want to learn about new products. They need general information. That's the reason why they're actually coming. Now, already you can see here, if two people are in the room and they have such a different idea of why they're actually in that room, this conversation will be funny. Now, we are not in a room, we are in the digital virtual space, and that discussion is funny sometimes if you don't get the ask correct. Now, data can help to clear this up, but it becomes easier as you know the ask first. So let me give you an example. If we look into, and I said, like in the book, we are looking at different chapters. So I stick with marketing. If we look at marketing, now we need to understand the different parts in marketing. Those different parts in marketing is more or less, it is brand awareness and intention creation. Now, for all the MBAs and managers or marketing managers in this room or on the phone, I have to apologize. This is obviously a very blunt and a short version of what marketing really does. However, the whole purpose of the book is to show you how you can use data in the marketing range, and I think for those two areas, data is most effectively applied. So let me talk through those. We go with brand, and we need to find a specific question. What's a specific question if we look at brand? Well, if we look at brand, we want to make sure that we have a brand awareness. We want to create an image, meaning we use content which is sticky. And the measures behind it, it's reach, repetition, market survey, and so on and so forth. If we go on the other side and we look at intent, and I'm putting those both up into one slide to show how different it is. If we look at the intent part, what we see here, totally different. We're trying to figure out who is showing an intention. That can be done by social signals, behavioral signals, and I will dig into those deeper. So obviously in the book I cover both. Here I will mainly cover intent, and I give you a hint how you get further to the brand idea. But before we actually jump into further discussion on intent, let me point one person out in the middle. Very often people say, oh, well, we create brand awareness. But brand awareness, and that's a big problem for many companies, brand awareness does not mean intention creation. So only because I know a brand does not mean I purchase a brand. So the whole trick of marketing is to get it from brand over to intention. And since the 50s, there is this dude in the middle, and you see him here with a big eye. We call him the influencer. And if you find him, he will make the jump going from brand over to intention. Very, very easy, and he will get us this greening walking person. And I told you in the beginning, I will tell you that I will declare him dead in this call, and stick with me a second and you will see why. All right, so we dig into intent. If we say intent, we need to define what are we exactly trying to do here. What's the question? Now, a good way of formulating a question is the same way how a good question in real life would be. And probably you have heard about the SMART steps. So being specific, being measurable, being actionable, being realistic, and being time-bound. That is SMART. Now, I don't go into this because there are loads of literature on that book. However, what we can look here is if we say we look for people who have an intent to buy or who have an intent to do something, and that's what we tried. We're looking for the green guy, not for the red guy. We're trying to focus our marketing activities on converting the green guy. Now the question is, where should I do my marketing spend? On the red guy who is not moving? No, on the green guy. How do I find the green guy? I look for signals. And now we're down in the data space. Okay. The question is, find me the green guy so that he's doing X. And X is business, what your business is all about. And how can we find them? Well, we can look for readiness. Intention is very much a question of readiness. So there are social signals. Has he liked or talked about a certain thing? There are behavioral signals. Has he clicked something? Typical one, the whole idea of retargeting. You put something in your basket, that's a behavioral signal, and somebody picks it up and uses it. Social signal. You clicked or you liked something, and we will see in a second which one is more important. You can make your bet already. External support. What your social network did, what your friends did, what somebody else did, but as well the overall situation. If everybody walks around with white headsets in his ears, that's a signal for them that they actually got a new iPod at the time as iPad was new. There were only black headsets out there, and then these people walked around with white ones. That's the overall situation. It tells you it is sexy. I should have that as well. That is as well a sign you can use in order to make people aware. So how often did that person see a white headset? Probably not easy to measure in this case, but online easier to measure when you're saying like how often was he exposed to a certain situation. Now then there's topic dependence, time dependence, weather dependence, and so on and so forth. Weather, believe me, totally undervalued very often. If you are a company who is selling games, weather dependent is one of your biggest features or variables to make understand whether sales will go up or down. I will go through those more in detail in the book. For here, what I want to say and make sure that you understand is once we have figured out a specific question, and that question is dependent on the business. So we had brand, we had intent. So we choose intent. Now we can break it down and look at actually more the metrics as such. Let's look at the question, what is stronger? Is social signals or behavioral signals stronger? And I promised you that I will answer you this one. Now there is a great study done by Liu, and thankfully he did this at Yahoo. Now he is with me in LinkedIn. Great guy, awesome study. So what he did here is actually he looked at the likelihood that somebody is clicking on an ad, and he compares the social community, a random baseline, and the behavioral targeting. And behavior is winning. Meaning, what is social community? Social community is if your friends clicked on an ad, then you have a higher likelihood to click on this ad than anything else. So there is value in social. This sounds good. This is what everybody expected. However, bigger than the value in social is actually the value in behavior targeting. So if you have clicked on similar ads, you are way more likely to click on the next ad which comes along with this one. And that's, as Facebook came out with their advertisement and everybody complained about Facebook commerce not being as effective, that's here the reason. That's why it is. Google knows behavior, and Facebook at that time as they came out, they did not know behavior that well. So what you have here, this is a gap between behavior. Behavior is always a better predictor than social. Now, that said, should we disregard social? No way, because we will see this later on in the measure part. Sometimes we just don't have that data. Sometimes we just don't have behavioral data. If you're not Google, you don't have it. And if you're a small company, you're building something up, all what you can rely on is a social network, because that you can ask your customers to actually supply, and then you have a better view. So only because one is stronger than the other doesn't mean we should disregard the other. It means there are certain times where we have to choose what we want to use. And obviously, the stronger the signal, the better it is that we use it. Okay, I promised you to talk today about the deaths. Influencers are dead. Bold statement, sorry for that. But this is a guy in the middle. You see him there, smiling. He is around since the 50s. Okay, I probably should have put him different pants on for this one. But he in the 50s, he was called an opinion leader. Then he appeared again in the 60s, was called influential, and then came over to the law of the few. By the way, if you're making screenshots and trying to figure out how to get all these names cut down, don't worry. At the end, I will have a link list which contains all that information, so it will be easy for you to follow here. Save your time. Great thing. This guy should get us from awareness over to intention. Sounds good. All what I need to find as a marketer, I need to find this guy, and he makes everybody buy me, do me, whatever my business needs to. Now, let's be clear. It's a myth. This guy, unfortunately, does not exist, at least not in a way we thought so. Now, this is a good thing because, as you see in the picture, it means, A, that humankind is not a lemminger type of people. Like we have one guy who pushes us all over the cliff and tells you jump and we all jump. That makes me feel good as a human. It is also good news for a marketeer because their job is essentially to go from brand awareness to intention. And if we would find this one guy, then that would reduce a lot of work of marketeers. Okay, Why do I say so? What's the research behind it? What we see is we overestimate influence. Most of the stuff which we see in influence is actually homophily. Take yourself. We are over 500 people on this call at this very moment, and many of you are analysts, are data savvy, and have looked at certain ranges of it. And I saw that yesterday, the application list. That's the reason why I know so. You have already certain predefined ideas. I only strengthen them. I give you more insights. I'm not the influencer. I'm not telling you something which you did not were like you were in a corridor, and I might tell you a bit left or right, but I won't totally change your mind most likely. So in order to influence is a lot of times homophily, meaning you have been doing this before. You have knowledge about this before. You are looking for information like this. So influence needs other things, and we know today what it is. Influence needs reach. This is what this call is about. I'm reaching about 500 plus people. Okay, that's reach. Influence is readiness, meaning are you listening at this very moment? Are you ready to take this information in? Do you have a similar business problem? Do you have a business partner who doesn't understand the ask, measure, learn framework, and you think this is a good thing to tell him? Then you're ready. You're ready to listen to me. If you are not, if I call you at a totally different wrong time, you might kind of think it's dull. And it's a topic dependence. While you might go now after the call and saying, you guys, influence is a little bit overvalued. It's 50%, it's homophily. Then I kind of got this topic across. If I would tell you something about that Santa Claus is alive, wrong topic for me to talk about. So this is, and what you see here in the picture is a study done by Kevin Lewis. And what Kevin did is he looked at a lot of topics we anecdotal belief that we get influenced, which music we listen to, which books we read, which movies we go to. And he looked at college students over 4 years' time, trying to figure out who is influencing whom. And pretty much the results are one thing, non-conclusive. There are only two results, I believe, who were statistical relevance, 2 or 3. And one is about classical music, the other one is about alternative or independent music. And the results are actually very funny to watch because classical music, so like let's say pop, you don't get influenced by pop, at least not from your peers. You listen to the pop which comes in the radio. You go with reach, like whatever comes and hits you, that seems to be on there and this is fine and you listen to it. If you have a more music taste where you steer yourself and you don't have so much outlets to choose from in terms of classical and jazz, information becomes essential for you. Information to figure out who should I listen to, what should I do. So you do talk to other people. Who is a great composer? What was a great orchestra? And so on and so forth. And that you see in the classical jazz. The star shows that the statistical relevance is, there is a relevancy, and there is actually influence visible in the classical and jazz discussion. Independent music is the opposite, meaning if you listen to a certain song, I don't want to listen to it because I want to be cool and independent and alternative. So there is actually a strong non-linearity, or negative correlation in it. Not non-linear, negative correlation in it. So the more I talk, the less I'm willing to be influenced by this. All right. So we covered now in the marketing area, we covered a lot about, we covered a little bit the question for influence. We covered the fact that influencers are dead. We covered the intention bit and what kind of metrics would play into it. What we didn't cover is the brand part, and looking at time, I won't do it. But if you want to know more about brand is a lot about content curation. You can go on the website. There is a free white paper on content curation. You go to lutzfinger.com. Click on resources. You find content creation. It's a white paper. It goes through engagement metrics. It goes through other kind of metrics in order to make content sticky, in order to measure that. If there's more to it, obviously, and if you still want more, then happily to guide you through. There is a whole part in the book which talks about only that. Right. Ask we did. We understand the ask is different per department. We understand that there is not one size fits all, but it is always start with a question, start with the ask. Let's go over measure. Again, measure very much depends on measure what. So which department, marketing, sales, PR, and so on and so forth, need to go through. But I promised you to talk about measure, and measure is the right data. So now the question is, why the right data? Why not big data? Well, I'm working at LinkedIn. We have big data. We have really awesome data and a lot of data. Why am I not talking about big data? Well, big data is a pain, and every one of you knows the more rows, the more columns your table has, the more stuff you need to do and wrangle, the more mistakes you have, the more difficulties they have. Big data is just big pain. It does not mean big insights. So the job of a data scientist or the job of an analyst is to go from big data actually to small data. What you want is small data. What you want is information, and that information can be a byte or a bit. Should I buy this company, yes or no, was probably a question which WPP had at one point in time while they're talking to my own startup, Fisher Analytics. And that's a binary decision. They either buy it or they don't buy it. And they went through a lot of data to make that decision. Probably not petabyte, but a lot of data. But at the end, what they want is a binary decision. Now, here I show a graph, which is then obviously a little bit more than a binary decision. But you want information. You don't want big data. You want small data. And to get there, we actually need to look for the right data. So it's not big, it's small, but to get to small, we need right. Now, okay, that's a lot of words here. Problem is that in data, we have a lot of irrelevant noise. And if I'm listening to the conversation, everybody says there's so much awesome data out there. What they mean, there is so much data out there, which I totally agree. Awesome is, however, the right one, and that is very specific for your need, for your business. So we need to get rid of the irrelevant noise, and we do this by obviously testing, looking around, and then applying metrics to condense the data, get it to relevant data, and from there we get to information. That way is not easy. And I will show you like a very simple example where this can go totally wrong. All of you probably know a little bit about statistics. So you know what a mean is, you know what variance is, you know what a correlation is, and you know what a linear regression is. If you know not everything of this, don't worry. The point is, all of those are very basic statistical functions to abstract from a lot of data. If I want to describe a line, I need 2 data points to describe the line. If I have 1 million data points on that line, it's still a line, and I still only need 2 to describe the line. That would be doing the linear regression. Now, that sounds good. Because that's exactly what I said. Like, we have big data and we want to go over to small data. So here we are. Seems to be those 4 functions. Statistics, 101, very basic, seems to be the right thing for us to do. It is not, unfortunately. If you look at the following 4 graphs, and they are called the UNSCOP quartet, they are looking all different, right? But the mean, variance, correlation, and linear regression of all those charts are the same. UNSCOP, great statistician, died unfortunately in 2001, kind of had put those together. This is like what he became famous for. Just to remind you, measurements can be misleading. And as a side note, I think the biggest problem we run in our society today is that we are too much believe in measurements. Companies say they're data-driven, but sometimes they're actually only metric-obsessed. And if they're metric-obsessed and the metric happens to be a wrong metric, then it will go wrong. Now, let me show you an example of where it went wrong. Do you know these guys on the screen? This is Alta Vista. You have probably seen them before, or you have heard from them before, except you just recently came from school. Great search engine, but nobody knows about it anymore because Google ate their lunch. Why? Why did Google eat their lunch? And here you see actually the line of how the market share declined steadily. Stunning. Why? Because Google had the right metrics. Now, guys, that tells you already this is an art. The people at Alta Vista, they weren't stupid. They were actually pretty good. They were smart people. However, and they had the same data as Google, but they did not have the same metric. They did not put the same data into the correlation which they wanted to do. Alta Vista had all the words of a website. They had all the links of the website. They did not come up with PageRank, which is just one metric. They did not come up with the idea of saying what is important words, what's a relevant word for me to look at the website, and how do I put this together. And that essentially made it for them difficult to find relevant content. So Google ate their lunch. Google very much knows, this is good news by the way for everybody on the call, Google very much knows that their algorithm can only go a certain distance. So if anybody of you has a better idea of to do it, go for it. Because your likelihood is that you can do the same gig as Google did. Like if you find a better metric, you're in the game. So finding metrics is not easy. Asking the right question is very difficult. Now finding the metrics is dangerous because sometimes you get the wrong idea. And sometimes you just don't get any idea at all, as like Alta Vista. Now, in the book, we are trying to give you a simple framework. Now, obviously, frameworks are one thing. They're simple in order for you guys to go through it. But if you have a lot of data, the way you can actually streamline the data and put the data together is by the following things. Like you look at what is the error rate you have in data? And we will look later on if we look at text data, see why text data has a higher error rate. You need to look at correlation, like is that data correlated to actually my question, my ask? And you need to look at cost because data is not free. Even if we think Twitter and Facebook, they're pushing it out for free, you have a cost of acquiring this, of storing this, and so on and so forth. So those three things will give you a decent way of getting fast to the data you actually want. Now there is a fourth point which I didn't put in a graph here, it's privacy. And that is not only because the NSA came up with it or Snowden came up with it. Privacy is a concern since a while for anybody working with data, and it should be. We need to be, as data people, be very open of how we use data. We need to display transparency. That is the most important thing. Otherwise, it will haunt us at one point in time. Not at this very moment, but when people take the Target example, when people realize that they actually know that you are pregnant, then suddenly people say, like, hold on a second. Did I ever give you my permission to figure out that I'm pregnant? And that is a danger for any work you do. So privacy, always keep it in mind. Okay. So if you want to learn more about data scoring and how, like in this framework and how you put it together, again, you can go to the website lutzfinger.com/ and then you go to resources. I have a free scoring network there. So like it's a workbook. It goes through exactly those points. A couple of more points which here to mention. Less data is often more. Sampling, I'm a quantum physicist by training, so I tell you sampling, you don't need to use the whole data set you have. A whole data set is always pain. Sample smartly. And if you do metrics or machine learning, good is often good enough. And it doesn't need to be the best. And you will see, it comes with a cost, and then suddenly your cost bubble goes up, and you say, well, this is an incremental better. But if you use a scoring metrics you just saw, you will see, yeah, it's an increment better, but it was okay before. It was already in the quadrant of stuff which I would like to look at, and now I just made it hugely expensive. All right. So far, I gave you the background on the measure part, why measuring can be misleading, why measuring how you can score data, and so on. Now let's go into an example, and I promised you I go to a different department, so this time I will pick PR. Again, if you're a PR person, you will cringe at my simplistic view on PR. PR's job is to distribute information. PR's job is to measure and to warn people. So if we have those two ideas, and obviously there's way more to PR, but if we have those two ideas which we can actually measure and support perfectly with data, then I pick one of those, I pick the distribute information part, and off we go and have quite a lot of different different metrics we can look. So if we want to distribute our information, then first of all, it's a reach question. How many people did I reach? It's an authority question. If we supported one time in one big consultancy company, and he says, well, I don't care about reach. I care about reaching the right people. So it's an authority question. You do a network analysis, who is the most central person you want to reach there. It's a context question. As I said, influence depends on context. So context. You can as well count numbers of articles if you care about how effective is your PR work, like how many articles do you push out. I explain in the book why this is a lot of bullocks very often. You can look at engagement of those articles, way more useful, sentiment, and so on and so forth. I will go into the two red ones, as you already figured, context and engagement. So let me start with engagement. Engagement is nothing else than counting reactions to a given article. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty stupid. Like you have a computer and he counts how many retweets did I get, how many mentions did I get, how many comments did I get, and so on and so forth. I'm seeing there's a good discussion ongoing. If you keep on asking questions. I will get to all of your questions, and I promise you, if I don't get to the questions in that call, I will follow up with you afterwards in Twitter or like LinkedIn. So engagement is one way of seeing this. And this is very, very helpful for a lot of media companies. And for example, we did stuff with the BBC. So if you look at the following two articles, they show you what the engagement number is, and you can see what is clicking, what is sharing, what is commenting. And I believe this was the year 2012, I believe. 2012, 2013, no, 2012. They had this, the North Korean leader died. That was obviously big news, and a lot of interest was there. But parallel to that, there was an article, like a couple of weeks later, there was an article about the myth of 8 hours sleep. The content of this article is you don't need to sleep the whole night. It's totally fine to sleep 4 hours, wake up for 2 hours, and go back again for 2 or 3 hours to sleep. Now, that article caught a lot of attention. It was the most engaged article over the whole year, telling you a lot of people probably have that problem and was wondering what's wrong with me, and therefore this article hit their nerves. Now, comparing those two is one thing. It's stupid because context is different. But engagement tells us how strong somebody is involved in one area if I keep the context the same. Now, obviously, the death of a political leader cannot be compared with sleeping habits of the general public. So what we need to do is we need to look at context. Now, context information is actually a big beast because it requires a computer to understand what's actually said in that article. And text mining is one thing. It's hard. Like if you are having a big SQL database and you're kind of used to kind of like getting easy data and kind of yes or no or a number, forget all that. If you do text mining is a tough business. And if you ever doubt it, think about how the first automated translation engines looked like, and we made a lot of fun of them in the 80s. Oh, actually a little bit later. But that is text mining. Text mining is not perfect. How can you do this? There are multiple ways of doing this, and I won't go into much details. Term frequency versus a document frequency, that's a lot of, this is very much what Google uses to understand whether a term you're using is relevant for the corpus of discussions they are looking at. You can as well use machine learning, maximum entropy, or aided learning. All of those things have drawbacks, and I'm going through them more in detail in the book. But the one thing, either you need trainings data or you need a corpus, which is manually. So all of them are not as smart as we want to have them to be. Now, that said, so there is a lot of complexity to it. However, I said early on, good is often good enough. So if you want to build your model, start simple and see whether good is often good enough. For example, you take the free API from Thomson Reuters. And that's what you see on the right side, what we did. We looked at, so Thomson Reuters helps you to understand what an article is all about. And this is now what you see here is the month of March in all the discussions in the UK done by Fisher Analytics, and we, like my former startup, and we look at pretty much what is the discussion's all about. It's shortly before Christmas, and what you see here is actually the blue line is entertainment and culture stuff. While politics keeps on running the red line pretty much throughout the year, even in Christmas, the blue line interest in entertainment stuff goes down. It comes up slightly, like it goes down before Christmas. So if you, what does it tell you? If you happen to be a star, don't try to launch anything shortly before Christmas. Now, any PR person can have told you this, but the data is supporting this. And if you have a bad PR person, you better ask the data why that is. Now, you have a peak around Christmas, most likely is only for Santa Clauses, and then there's nothing. And then obviously stuff gets up high again for New Year's because all the like the VIP persons going to all the parties that everybody wants to know. So data can help you there. Now, as I said, it is actually difficult to get to information through text. And why is that? The biggest problem is actually you, the human, the user, because text very often inherently needs us some way to cut into the data. I mean, like, if we do any query in a database, we normally say where and then feature X is Y or whatsoever. We need to do this with data as well. We need to figure out a way how to find the data we want to look at. And that is normally a keyword. Now, why is that so complex? Well, let's talk about General Motors. Now in the news because they have not reacted for 10 years, but despite knowing that they actually have a car which kills people because of a product mistake. And they didn't do something for 10 years. Is this now harming the brand or not? Well, the answer is yes, but the question is how big is it harming your brand if we are looking back in the PR world? And means you need to look at all the discussions out there. Now, if you look for General Motors, what will you get? You will get information about car accidents. That General Motors car hit a Toyota car 8th corner 17th. Okay, not interested. You will have sales. I want to sell my car. This is cheaper and so on. Also not interesting. You're looking for the brand relevant stuff. Now, unfortunately, they are connected, and whenever you're trying to reduce one, you will have false negative or false positive from depending on which side you're at. Meaning there is no clean way. There is no 100% way of easily doing this. Data, text data is as well, and I said the awesome thing about social and data is that it describes human beings, human behavior, but that is always unstructured. And I promised you I will make a point of showing you that text data is actually a beast and that this is actually very complex. So social data, like for example, I want to know what's the weather in New York like, okay? I look at Twitter. I can do this with entity extraction, very fancy, or we said good is good enough, so I just do a simple word match. I find nice weather, warm weather, beautiful weather. That gives me an idea. Bad weather stays out. Now it's getting a little bit more complex. I need to actually convince the computer to understand that bad weather does not always means bad weather, but bad weather stays out. It's actually the opposite. But look at the last one. This New York weather is making me horny for summer. Excuse me? How is a computer supposed to understand this one? How is he supposed to understand that he actually means good weather? It's social way of describing information, and we are like multifaceted, which makes it difficult for a computer always to understand. Now, obviously in the weather example, you kind of shaking your head and saying that there's better information out there, and you are right. Just go over to a weather channel and you get the numbers, you get it very structured, you get it nice and easily shown. But if you want to understand what weather has an implication for happiness or for user behavior or why people buy, then you actually need to revert back to text data. And that is not 100% clean, and that means, looking back at the measure part, we have a high error to cope with. as well as more cost. Yeah, like tapping into the Weather Channel news forecast, we just need to store a couple of data a day. If we're trying to understand what people actually talk about the weather, we need to store way more. Okay, we talked about the ask part. We talked about the measure part. Now the learn part. Learning means acting on data. So, like you recall what we said. Only action. Like we want to go from big data to information. Let's be very, very clear. Data by itself is useless. Information by itself is useless. So hold on, what am I doing here? I'm a data guy, so I'm storing big data. I'm applying science to get to small data, and you're telling me this is all useless? Yes, it is. It only becomes valuable if an action follows. Only the action counts. That's the reason why I would like to see business together with data and data science and engineering under one roof, because only the action counts. Okay, also here I will give an example. If we want to take actions, there are a couple of things which we can do, and I like the parts which we will look at is again PR and product. How do you take action? And I get to hear this very often. What does this all mean? How do I take action? Well, pretty much it's a very simple thing. Action can mean three things with data. It can either mean benchmark, it can mean recommendations, or it can mean predictions. Okay? So benchmark. I take a PR example. What you see in this following chart is we worked with a company who wanted to know how present are they actually in the different media types. So they gave us their list of news outlets they're working with, and they're asking us like, how well are we presented versus our competitor? Very neat benchmark discussion. What's the action behind it? Well, if you look at the Independent, you will actually see that the company we are working in, Independent, the first one from the button, Independent. Okay, we have the company we are working with, very little share of voice, and then everybody else has a lot of share of voice. If that is an issue, then you better strengthen your relationship with the Independent. Or maybe you are happy because you don't want to be in the news. Now, that again comes back to the ask. So, okay, now I have here the measurement. Without the action, I can only do with the ask. That's the reason why we have to have it all under one roof. Another example. Well, me being at LinkedIn, I obviously like if it comes down to recommendations, that's what we do. That's what we are very, very good at. We recommend you loads of things. People you know, groups you know, ads you want to see, companies you want to follow, similar profiles, and so on and so forth. This is what we do. Now, building recommendation engines are definitely not easy. You have loads of problems there, and in the book I'm describing on a high level. Remember, it's not a super technical book, but I'm describing on a high level what are all the problems you're running into. The cold start problem, the data scarcity problem, and so on and so forth. Cold start, you don't have data enough. Scarcity, you don't have data in the long tail, and so on and so forth. And there are ways around all of those. Now, obviously, in this case, the more relevant data you have, the better it is. Relevant, big time, not irrelevant data. Okay, let's go further on. Prediction. I told you that I'm giving you a fast idea of predicting the Oscars, and then we have everything. We have the benchmark, we have the recommendation, and we have the prediction. Predicting the Oscars. That is the prediction of the Oscars this year. The Wolf of Wall Street. Now, if anybody followed this is one thing. It's wrong. It was not the Wolf of Wall Street. It was 12 years a slave. Now, what happened here? The company looked at public information and trying to look out for who got the most buzz, and from that most buzz, we assume this will be our prediction. Now, since you have followed me around for like almost 60 minutes now, you know what's wrong here. They used wrong metrics. They used, and you see this in the pyramid, they used all moviegoers. Oh, actually, not even that. They skewed all moviegoers. They used only all moviegoers which are on Twitter. Now, that is obviously not the right thing. If I want to see the golden shape on the top, which is the academy who takes that decision, I used wrong data. I used wrong measurement. So to predict stuff is, like nonlinear regression is 200 years ago, like 200 years old. Logarithmic regression is 100 years old. It's not rocket science. However, if you have wrong data, you won't get anything. Bullshit in, bullshit out. So what you see here is moviegoers with wrong metrics to decide on. Meltwater did it, but they only had moviegoers. If you look at other companies, they kind of trying to predict the Oscars, and they're trying to do this way more smarter. So they look at the people in the academy. What have those guys read? What have those guys said? They make content profile of the people in the academy, trying to understand how will they react to the given movies best. And then you can actually do pretty awesome predictions. Well, the question is, what was the ask behind it? All right, I will skip over the next one because we're a little bit out of time, and pretty much come back to the summary. This is all about asking the right question, measuring the right data. It doesn't need to be big data. And then you need to learn and take actions from them. No action, nothing happened except a lot of work. Okay, that is the framework. Now, if you want to learn more, there is a free chapter on marketing available on lutzfinger.com/resources. I have a white paper on this one. So you have a white paper, as I said, in terms of content curation, a white paper or a workbook on like building the measure from ask, measure, learn. And all the references to that, all the references to that webcast are actually there.